Hello and welcome to this month's edition of United Way at Work. I'm your host, United Way of Rutland County Executive Director Nanci Gordon, and my guest is, I say this with complete sincerity, one of my very favorite people to work with in this community and has been for some time. Elizabeth Eddy of BROC is my guest today. Thank you for being here, Elizabeth.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm glad I'm someone's favorite person, one of their favorite
Yeah,
people,
I mean, I'm not going to put you over my grandnephew, admittedly, but
No.
you know, you're just one of my favorites anyway. But
take it.
that's stiff competition. Now, BROC has been serving this area for 5 decades, part of the war on poverty,
Yes.
the beginning of the community action agencies in the mid-60s, and going strong through thick and thin over 5 decades in Rutland County and also in
Yes.
Bennington County. What do you see as the current state of the county, if you will, in terms of serving people who are facing various barriers in life and forms of poverty? What's the climate like for your clients right now?
It's hard to address poverty issues when we don't control the economic climate, and we don't. So we do have programs such as the Economic and Workforce Development Program, which helps people become self-employed. But I know in my tenure at BROC, I have been there 9 years, that when I first started, we could tell people to go down to certain employers and they were almost guaranteed of a job. And now that's become harder. I do think things have improved, but for example, when we talk about housing, that is bricks and mortar, but unless one has an income to obtain housing and more importantly sustain it, then our counseling is less effective. So I think Rutland, and I do not have statistics to back this up, but I know a lot of the folks we're seeing, I know there are county statistics, but in our sphere at BROC, a lot of our folks are struggling with income. They might be seasonally employed, they might have lost some hours at work, they could have lost benefits, and so having enough income to cover all expenses is difficult because incomes are not rising, and I'm very confident in saying that, and yet costs are rising. Food costs have risen a lot. Right now, fuel prices are lower, which helps folks. So I think people have to work harder to even maintain a standard of living, and it means people who've struggled with that for a long time have an even harder time becoming stable, and there's less ascension than there probably was in, you know, the 1960s, 70s, and even 80s. And Rutland is doing a lot to combat that, and so is BROC, but
If I were someone facing a hardship that, like you say, maybe underemployed, had been in a medical crisis or some other major setback that made me need to seek support from BROC, what's the process like for somebody who comes to you as a new client of the organization? What kind of questions do you ask? What's the process like?
we always do an intake, and we're going to ask what people are looking for, but then we gather income information, demographic information, household composition, because we know what the benefit programs are, either our own programming or else benefits such as 3 Squares Vermont, for example. If someone is coming to us because they're having difficulty paying certain bills and we know they're eligible for 3 Squares Vermont, formerly the food stamp program, then we can help them connect to that program and have more money in their pocket. And for example, if someone comes to us because they need fuel and they haven't applied for the state fuel assistance, we make sure they've done that. In fact, we are required to ensure that because that's an even bigger benefit than we can offer. So, for example, there are certain benefits for people who are veterans. There's all sorts of different niches people can fall into, and our job is to navigate that. And even if it's something we don't do, for example, if someone needs help repairing a car, we might not do that, but if we can help them with their electric bill, it will free up more money in their budget so they can address their other needs. So we try to get a picture of the person holistically and just assess if they're eligible for not only our own programming, but other programs. And we make referrals too. If we know a certain agency does something for someone, we'll refer them. We don't just say, we don't do it, so we're sending you away. We try to really embrace them and encompass all their needs, and other partners in the community do the same. They might provide a service for a client and refer them to BROC for crisis fuel or navigation services.
One of the things I hear so often in conversations with various partners and experts who weigh in with United Way throughout the community is that many fine resources do exist, but one of the challenges is making sure that people have the access to the services, that they have the support to make sure that there's transportation to get them to and from the appointments, maybe childcare is an issue. Some of these other factors that get in the way from somebody just picking up the phone, making the appointment, following through, and getting the help. And and I know from my experience working with you folks at BROC as a community partner, that there's a lot of really personal connection that you need to maintain with folks to really see them through.
We do, and if people have not accessed any such help before, it's hard for them to even know where to start. We encounter people all the time that are new and they don't know how the system works. And you don't have to be in the system. It doesn't mean you have to always be within a system to receive help. But what I'm concerned about is a lot of people could be served by certain programs and are not. And I did bring, for example, the income list for crisis fuel. I think people assume a lot of our programming is for people of very, very low incomes, and we certainly serve that population. But if you are a family of 4, for example, you can earn up to $4,042 in monthly income and qualify for help. That's not insubstantial.
Right.
People assume it's very, very low, and it is not.
That is not poverty. It's
no, it's 200% of poverty. If someone is a single person, it can be up to $1,962, and for every child, it's the size of the household. So if people have children or other people living within a household, that increases the amount they can earn and still remain eligible. And for example, taxes, we do prepare taxes every year. People can earn up to $49,000 household income. And again, a lot of the folks they're serving don't earn even close to that, and we're happy to serve those folks. But a lot of people could receive free qualified tax help and do not, and spend money that they don't need to spend. Certainly, a skilled preparer is needed in some cases, but for a lot of the people we could serve, spending that money is not necessary because it's a fairly simple return, and we partner with Castleton University students to do the returns, and they have qualified with the IRS. So again, it's more money in someone's pocket. Right. Not only are their taxes done on time, done correctly, there's a lot of oversight, but people have saved a preparation fee. If it's some other capital gains, for example, we're not going to do that, and they would seek a professional. But
people who have that kind of complexity to their return are not likely to be eligible for the services of BROC anyway.
Wouldn't come in.
Capital gains coming to mind there.
And we would tell them, though, if they fall in within the, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. Some scenarios do not qualify, but then we make a referral sometimes. In certain cases, we've had the professor of the college has helped us with those. So we want people to call, and that's another point that you brought up, which is access. If someone has a disability in receipt of SSDI, or if they are over 60, people can call us for services with fuel, for example. We don't want someone who would have a great hardship coming in from a very remote town coming into our office. We can do that over the phone. We have to ensure that we're receiving the income and documentation, but that is fairly easy to do. We want to serve people and make our services more accessible.
One of the things that you've brought up for me by the description of these income limits for some of the programs you offer is the idea of who your clients are. You've mentioned, that yes, people with the very, very toughest situations, folks who may have been in poverty for a long time, yes, obviously they come under your umbrella. But that a lot of folks you see are employed full-time, perhaps more than one job even.
We serve them too. And I will mention, I'm talking about Crisis Fuel because it is a big program and people might have heard of that, and it does have a rule book. However, we just are coming from our Wheels for Warmth fundraiser where we receive money, and that's discretionary. People don't have to jump through any hoop for that. If someone is in need, we want to help them. You don't have to be under a certain poverty threshold. Any donations we receive, people do not have to be. We will go in January to do the Ski for Heat fundraiser, which we've been doing every year. That also does not have those restrictions. So people don't have to fit in within little pigeonholes necessarily to receive help. For some programs they do, but we have a broad spectrum. We have 5 different departments and a variety of income limits, and some programs are not limited by income at all. So we want people to ask us for help. And if we can't do that, we can make a referral, but far more people could be served than currently believe they can be served.
Yeah.
So.
And again, the whole issue of access, and we're trying
Yes.
to help facilitate that as a united way as well.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're on the topic of crisis fuel assistance, let's do other related topics, weather-related topics. Let's talk about weatherization. BROC has some wonderful people working in homes providing weatherization
Yes.
services.
That's what that department does, and they do auditing. They set up appointments to look at energy usage in the home, and the audit serves as the basis for weatherization intervention if someone qualifies. And they have several crews that go out and do all the work. And if someone is income eligible, that is free. There's also a component where people can pay for service. We also have an efficiency coach at BROC, and that person can go into the home as well and help people reduce their usage and install simple devices to save energy. So that's a very critical program because it helps reduce costs, but also it reduces the impact on the resources. So it's win-win there. And that program, we work with them in my department also on the emergency heating system replacement grant. We do the income qualification and we substantiate the need, but then weatherization takes the case from us, and then if someone qualifies, can help with heating system repair or replacement.
Related to the issues of warm housing, what about your work with people who are in search of housing? Certainly BROC has been working on homelessness issues with other community partners.
Yes.
And of course has operated Jen's Motel for some time now. Tell me more about what BROC does related to homelessness issues and provisional housing.
Yes. We are a HUD-certified housing counseling agency, and I have a dedicated counselor who provides assistance with people both seeking housing and seeking to retain it. We do partner with other agencies, and now with the new coordinated entry system in Rutland, a lot of the homelessness is largely dealt with economic services for the general assistance vouchers. And also our partner, the Homelessness Prevention Center, has a lot of services. So there's a coordinated entry point now in the county, and so we receive referrals, and the Women's Network will receive referrals. Any agency, there are many agencies now that are part of this. The hospital's joining up, so quick service can be provided and to making the most targeted referrals for people who are in need. So we see a lot of people facing eviction or who need assistance with housing to find it. And again, we look at their income and what they want and what they can afford, and we try to intervene so they don't lose housing, because it's always much more expensive to rehouse someone than it is to prevent eviction. So we do a lot of mediation, and we work with landlords, and we also make referrals for job coaching. And because again, income is the center. Someone has to have enough. There are programs that are transitional. BROC does not have those. So again, there are community resources where people can be placed under the Housing First model. That's not what we have. We actually have United Way support to do housing, so we're looking for sustainability there. But the housing need is great. There's Rutland always ranks behind Burlington in the number of homeless people served. It's a lot of these folks are in motels, which is not an ideal situation. So BROC is one of many partners, including the city of Rutland, that are working on solutions for sheltering folks and creating systems that bring about longer-term permanent housing outcomes.
Jen's Motel, I once had to help somebody get set up there. And I was very, very impressed with the response and the sense of responsibility with which the place is operated. I mean, people who get in there, they have to toe the line.
They do, and it's funny you say that, because Jen's Motel is owned by BROC, and it's in Center Rutland, and Donna Stearns is the manager there, and people like being there, but they do have that expectation. If someone is at Jen's, you're not going to remain anonymous. Donna's going to be in your life, which is a good thing. And it's actually a good screening process. If someone goes to Jen's, it usually means they want to work on the barriers, as you said earlier, and they want the support. And people feel better there because the manager and family live on site. So it's more comfortable, and they have someone they can talk to every day. And there's just closer, there's a closer connection between just a market motel, and certainly many motels do a very good job, but Donna does case management there, and it's a small place, and so a lot of the residents feel very good about going there, and it's we'd like to think a very well managed, safe facility for people who have hit tough times in their life. But Donna does such a good job with taking care of people. She's bringing Christmas trees to their rooms and showing up on their doorstep with turkeys, and just really knowing her folks and helping them receive what they need, and then being very overjoyed when they move on to permanent housing, which most of them do.
I think what we need to remember, both in the spirit of the season and just in general, is when people are in a vulnerable place where they are turning to an organization such as BROC, to have that kind of personal care, to have the TLC of somebody delivering a tree to your room or what, I'm thinking of single parents struggling with young children, and all being in these vulnerable times of transition.
Being in a motel during the holidays. I drove by this morning on my way to work, and I see a little child and his dad coming out of the hotel room there. It's hard to think about. It's very difficult. I'd rather they were there. If they had to be somewhere, I'm glad they're there under BROC's roof, and they are receiving support. I do know that. That's what people need. It's when people are in a very stressful situation, often people are embarrassed. They don't want to talk about it, especially if someone has had a higher status before. It's very difficult. So it's hard to accept help. And people want to help, though. And they want to help in a respectful manner, not, we all want to see everyone thrive. So if someone, it's a transition in most people's lives. It's temporary, and it should be temporary. And all the intervention is designed to make that type of living temporary.
My nephew, I have several adult nephews, and the one in Florida shared a Facebook post a few weeks ago that really speaks to this. He has 3 sons, and some of the kids were giving up their toys, the toys they'd grown tired of because they had other toys to replace them, or they outgrew the toys. And this one boy was seen clutching the toy, the hand-me-down from my nephew's son. And this kid's grin went wrapping around to the back of his head. He was so excited. And it reminded my nephew John about how much we take for granted, and how something that we can discard becomes the most important thing in the world, a symbol of hope, a symbol of joy, for somebody else in a different circumstance.
It is, and if someone is in a hotel, a lot of folks lose everything many times in their life. They will unfortunately be evicted from a place, and they'll leave everything behind. A lot of people don't have any memories with them. They have no photographs, they have no furniture, and when we rehouse them, often they need everything. And we scramble together to find furnishings, but you can find tables and chairs, but a lot of the personal items, the items of comfort, are gone. And a hotel room can be very austere, and so you're right about that. It's a hard way for people to live. It's not, doesn't seem like home, and I think everyone working with anyone in housing, all of our great case managers in this community really try very hard to, to really foster that that support, and especially now, this is a tough season to be living like that. But
again, as you say, here's an opportunity for safety. There's some structure, which is for people who want the support. To have the structure there is comforting.
It is, and kids still go to school. There's homeless coordinators in the schools, and they work with kids because you can still go to your school, and your school will make that happen. And so life continues as it was. And yes, people do have a roof over their heads. We meet people who live in cars. So having a whole room, a private room in your own bathroom, a kitchen like a Jen's Motel with an oven in it, that makes a big difference. It really does.
A major aspect of what BROC does, in addition to these crisis-oriented services and helping people transition out, would be focused on what I would call long-term improvements. For example, your micro-business program really helps people who are in transition have a better quality of life and really make a new direction. Let's talk a bit about your services regarding micro-businesses.
Self-employment is in a rural state is a growing avenue for people to become self-sustaining. It's not a big enough state where there's always a lot of opportunity at different agencies, organizations, businesses, so people start their own. And we do have a business counselor who covers both counties, and Annette Hoyle, and she helps people develop business plans, very, very well-researched, thorough ones, I might add. And
that's key.
Yes, and that department also does the transitional training grant. They work with various interns from Reach Up or Weber or Voc Rehab to help them gain skills in the workplace so they can find employment. And then there's also the Individual Development Account, IDA program, where people can save toward a goal of home ownership or business startup or post-secondary education, and it's matched. So people save $1,000, they get $2,000 from state and federal sources over the course of time while they receive a lot of financial capability coaching. In fact, I just came from BROC, and Shelley Ferris, who's the IDA coordinator, had someone from rural development speaking about their programming. So it's a great deal of information, and it's meant to help people become ready. It improves the readiness, so when the money is there, people can use it wisely and they're not in a crisis, so it can be used toward those three goals that have been identified. And that's been a very successful program, people buying homes, and there are businesses all around that were started through the Economic and Workforce Development Program, and we've all been to those, and it works really well.
You and I, of course, became acquainted with each other working on food drives.
Food drives, yes. We're always driving.
We're always trying to raise food in the community, because it's funny how, just like when we run out of gas in our cars, people run out of food in their
kitchens. They keep eating it, so we keep
to eat. So we have to do that more than once a year.
Yes.
So let's talk about the food and nutrition-related programs. Rutland County United Way has supported the
letter carriers food drive.
Yes, and the new Eating Healthy Teeth program, the Community Impact Grant through BROC. So there are a couple of ways where we're directly connected to BROC for food-related purposes.
The healthy eating and working on the dental, that's been a really a good initiative, and BROC has been happy to participate in that. And one way of we're tagging on to the outreach, the considerable outreach done by the Child and Adult Care Food Program at BROC. And their mission has always been to bring more healthful foods and snacks into participating daycares at no cost to the daycare or to parents, and they've been doing that for years. So they have this delivery system, and One of the staff regularly monitors these daycares, and there's a lot of nutrition education provided to those participants. And now the coordinators of the program are bringing this new message of the healthful dental to all of those children in the daycares, and they serve up to 800 children per year in this program. So that's a great outlet.
Apples are better for your teeth than pixie sticks, is basically.
Really? Yeah.
When you're 3, that's still new information. Yeah.
I remember them well, yes. And so, again, BROC has an in there, and it seemed like a natural partnership. And again, we're out and about, and we're providing that information for the children and providing and guiding those foods. And now adding the dental part is just a natural outgrowth of that. And also the weatherization, the efficiency coach is going out there. So we do people in the community and going into homes and where they can have an audience, and that works very nicely. So
how can somebody volunteer with BROC? Because some people, they can give of their financial means. Others can give more of their time because they're closer to needing the services than not. How can people get involved supporting BROC?
They can just come in, and we have an application. It depends what people want to do. It can be anything. I mean, some jobs are physical, maybe in our food shelf. Some could be more sophisticated. Someone could be a tax volunteer. You know, we want to know what people are interested in, and then we can provide some training. But we accept applications quite happily. We have a lot of good volunteers, and we always could use more.
Yeah, and again, an amazing group of people who work there. I very much appreciate the support of the team in terms of your own contributions to the United Way campaign this year as a staff, because you're on the front lines doing the work, and you see the need, obviously, to support not only your own organization, but partner organizations in the community. So thank you to all of you for your support this year in the campaign. If you would like to be involved with BROC, now at 45 Union Street, a great facility, the former CVPS building by the train station, and wonderful space for the community as a resource. When is the food shelf available to people?
In Rutland, it's open daily between 10 and noon, and people do have to sign in by 11:30. We've been able to greatly expand the food shelf because of the new space, but also with the Vermont Food Bank, we are working on the VT Fresh grant now, and that has brought in all these wonderful new displays for fresh food and the Fresh Recovery Project of the food bank, meaning we're getting a lot of donated produce and fresh foods. So we went from canned goods, pallets of canned goods, and you still need some canned goods. You know, we don't make our peanut butter on premises, but we have, we received like almost 40,000 pounds of donated fresh food last year through this partnership. So people go in there now and they see apples and they see yogurt and
potatoes,
cheeses, and we have a huge overflowing potato bin. And we have vegetables we've never encountered before. It's not just apples and potatoes. It's just, this has really transformed the food shelf, and it's set up with these new displays in a farmer's market type atmosphere. And again, it's meant to have the food in front of folks, and they can pick what they need, and of peppers, and we have some refrigerated and canned items, but those are in the background. In the forefront are the fruits and vegetables, which, as we all need to eat more of.
More of.
And we're making that happen, I hope.
It's amazing how quickly this time has gone. We have just a moment here. Thank you so much, Elizabeth Eddy from BROC, for being my guest today. We could have gone on another half an hour.
I know.
Sure. So much that goes on at BROC. Yeah. If you'd like to support the work of BROC and other partner agencies of United Way, get your donation in before the end of the campaign. We would love to hear from you via check to United Way of Rutland County at 6 Church Street in Rutland. Or you may text us, do a smartphone thing, dial the number 41444, text the word Rutland. You'll get a thank you message with a prompt, and then you can fill in your donation from there. Thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of all of the board and staff of United Way of Rutland County and all our sister agencies, including BROC, I wish you Very happy holidays. See you in 2016.